Wow, is this move the start of something much bigger on these charts? Wow, we've been calling for a pullback to the $8,800 to $8,900 area for the past few weeks. However, we haven't gotten that yet. Will we be seeing that within the next few days? However, if we zoom out on this chart, is it possible that we could actually still be forming a massive inverse head and shoulders? What that would mean would be significant downside still to come. We'll show you the exact targets. What is most likely if we would get a pullback to these areas. However, guys, keep in mind, this move is extremely premature. It's still, for the most part, still a pretty small move. And we haven't actually broken anything substantial yet, guys. 92 was our first small area, but more importantly, that $8,800 to $8,900 level still hasn't been broken. And as well, this 6-year structural line is actually where we are still above. We bounced slightly below it by about $100, but we're actually still holding on this line. Now, we can't expect much more downside unless we would break this level right here. And as well, you guys, if we broke 8,800, I definitely think we would be in store for about the low 8,000s, between 8,100 and 8,200 US dollars. However, there is one other significant area on these charts we can talk about that doesn't involve the $6,000 level, because that ultimately is one of the lowest levels we could go on these charts and still remain bullish. Obviously, traditional stocks not doing well today, printing some of the biggest losses this year as well. And correlation between this and Bitcoin is clear as of today. However, will this continue? We'll get into that into this webisode. And specifically, Joseph Young's 3 crucial factors why Bitcoin price plunges about $1,000 in the last day or so. So let's get into the webisode. Wow, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another extremely webisode of Bitcoin. Volatility has been at all-time lows over the past few months. Very sideways trading, and this move, which is not very substantial, although on these charts and these setups, it's a lot more predominant than it could have been if we were trading, a month or two ago. So with that being said, we have not broken some very key levels just yet, but we're going to get into the charts in some details and show you exactly if we do break these levels, which are really not that far off as I'm recording. We haven't gotten them yet, but they're not that far away. If we would break those levels, then I do think significant more downside. And guys, as I was talking about a week ago, I would be heavily accumulating if we actually do get this move. We'll talk about specific price targets in these charts, downside or upside, both of them much more exciting than sideways trading, in my opinion. So guys, we will be giving away the Ledger Nano X, as we talked about in yesterday's webisode. But as well, guys, if you want to enter for these Ledger Nanos, make sure to leave your comments, smash the like, hit the ding, subscribes. We can get into the webisode. And as well, guys, I heard so much feedback in my last video when I asked about crypto.com. I've heard a lot of great feedback. Very small criticism, like maybe not as good customer support. But overall, the app, the wallet, and the experiences people have been having are extremely good. So as well, if you guys are looking for a new place to buy cryptocurrency, I would definitely recommend, from everything that I've heard, crypto.com. If you guys sign up with the link in my description or comments, we both get 50 USD worth of MCO, guys. Absolutely huge, so make sure to take advantage. We always want to look for some alternatives to Coinbase, which I know a lot of new people, and just a lot of people in general, start using. It's just really important to have multiple options and multiple places to buy and sell crypto. Wow, so guys, let's get into this analysis. So Dow Jones, traditional finance, obviously NASDAQ hit all-time highs earlier this week. Absolutely ridiculous. I've been tweeting about it. Everyone has. It doesn't really make sense why it's pumping so much. So guys, is this the first sign of an actual correction and a pullback and potentially a recession in the economy? It's very early to tell just from one day of movement, I think. However, guys, I definitely think potentially this, to me, fundamentally makes more sense. In terms of technical analysis is one thing, but fundamentally, I think that the economy should not be on the trajectory that it currently is based on everything that's happened over the past 3 months. So with that being said, is Bitcoin going to continue to stay correlated? Because it clearly is today. However, this also did come at some timing that was pretty, I guess, coincidental in terms of Bitcoin once again getting rejected right around 10K. So if we zoom in here, last night I was watching these charts. We were having a little bit of a climb, guys, and we saw, actually, when I went to sleep, these were the candles that were printed. So it looked as though, again, it was on an uptrend and it was ready to actually touch on this. So when I woke up, I clearly saw it did get rejected. It spent a fair amount of time trying to break 10K, guys, but it's just not ready yet. And so we saw that rejection. Now, what it's going to take to actually break 10K, I think it's going to take a little bit more. As of right now, I'm going to go over a likely scenario that I think it will take before Bitcoin breaks 10K. But as we can see on this 4-hour ascending triangle, because this is clearly a very hard level. It's literally exactly the $10,000 level where we can go over exactly how many times. We have multiple 4-hour candles here on the 15th of May, then the 18th of May, We broke above it for a very brief period back on June 2nd. However, guys, that was clearly met with some liquidations and immediately shot back. That was our BART pattern of the week there. And then again, as of most recently, as of this morning and last night, failing right at 10K. So 10K, I mean, everybody's aware of that. It's a huge psychological level. And technically on these charts, 10K is just such an impossibly hard level as of right now to break. If we go over to these weekly charts as well, you can see this is 10K right about here, which is right in the middle of this golden pocket of the last 2.5 years for this Fibonacci retracement here between the 618 and the 0.65. So this area, specifically the very bottom's like 97. And guys, we have gotten rejected there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 straight weeks in a row. So this is huge. This is a huge resistance. It is not likely that we're going to break it this week. With that being said, there's an extremely interesting pattern shaping up here on this chart. Now this looks kind of messy, but if we zoom out here, you guys can see that this inverse head and shoulders is something we talked about a month ago, but people have also brought it up over the past few weeks, and it is a scenario that I think we have to watch out for. So clearly one of the main things that we have forming this is the neckline being at 10K. It's the perfect neckline. So out of this pattern, the most accurate part of this pattern is the fact that 10K has been completely horizontal resistance where we've just been failing. Specifically, it's like 10.4 or 10.5K, but really a lot of it is right at around 10K, and then slightly above that is where a lot of these wick up to. But specifically, this entire range right here could be considered like the neckline, but it's extremely horizontal, and it goes back 8 months. Okay, so this is an 8-month potentially already forming inverse head and shoulders, and by the time it completes, it could end up being like 10 months before the whole pattern completes. Now, why is that good and why is that bad? So for one, in terms of price action, that would require that we come down, in my opinion, to the minimum, to the mid 7,000 range. So 7,500, 7,600 at the lowest, I think would be healthy in terms of this actually becoming a solidified inverse head and shoulders. You can make money on the way up or down, so it doesn't necessarily mean that if Bitcoin's price is going down, you can't play that pattern. Obviously, if this is confirmed, which I think exactly what we need to break is around that $8,800 level. If we break 8,800, I think we're pretty much destined to go to at least 8,200. And if we break 8,200, then I definitely see us going into the mid 7,000s. So those are really the two big areas. If we break 8.8K, I think we're going to the very low 8,000s, and if we break about 8,200, I think we're going to about 74, 7,500 US dollars. And that could be our local bottom. That's what I'm looking for here. So that's illustrated on the chart here, but specifically, the reason I have those levels, 92 is this first orange line, 88 is this second horizontal line that's been strong resistance and support over the past few months. 82 is also strong. We have the 21 weekly moving average, which I think is one of the strongest weekly moving averages right here. And currently that's around like that $82, $8,400 level. So again, if we break 88, I think we're definitely going to come down to test these areas here. And if we break that, you might be looking at this chart and thinking, all right, well, why do you think 74 would be a good pullback area, which would be about right here on the chart? There's not too much in terms of horizontal resistance or support, except for this inverse head and shoulders that broke out back in December of 2019. And guys, inverse head and shoulders are extremely strong patterns. So before we actually show you that, I'll just show you that inverse head and shoulders that we were talking about for a very long time before it ended up breaking out right here. Okay, this is a very nice inverse head and shoulders, and when it broke out, rallied us all the way up to that 10.5 where we got rejected, but it hit its target objective. It broke out completely and then failed. So if we're actually going to get an inverse head and shoulders on these time frames, guys, this would be massive. The breakout target of this would actually be insane. So I want to get back and finish my thought there, but this is actually, let's take a look at this. Breakout target of this, we're just going to eyeball it roughly. That would definitely be breaking us above these highs set in the summer of 2019, which were around 14,000. So this inverse head and shoulder, if that in fact is what it is, would be the most bullish setup, okay? You can see the scale of the last inverse head and shoulders. You can see how small that was, and when it broke up, it was pretty substantial, right? Had a pretty big breakout target. If we actually got that breakout on this pattern, it would be a massive pattern. But again, you guys, we would need to wait for confirmations. It's still way too early to confirm this is the pattern we're in. But if we do see downside over the next few weeks continued, then that's exactly the pattern I'd be looking for, and that's a very, very bullish pattern. So it would be short term, very bearish, but in the mid to even long term, it would be extremely, extremely bullish there. With that being said, as I'm filming this, actually, we're testing this yet again, the 6-year trend. It's actually 7 years now, 7-year trend line here that I have drawn on Bitfinex. You can see that here. We're testing that for support again, which we tested it back in the summer 2 or 3 times, and we tested it recently just back in February of this year once until we broke below it back when the catastrophe happened at the beginning of March. and we're testing it yet again. So if we break through that, you guys, I definitely think we're going to be heading to 88. And if we break 8,800, then that's when all those other scenarios come into play. And I wanted to finish this thought here on this weekly chart. Why am I saying 74, guys? Well, because if we zoom out all the way here and get the entire bear market basically in perspective, the highest levels on the VPVR are the 8,200, which we talked about as a huge pullback area, the $6,300, $6,200 level, which is also a key Fibonacci level, the 782 here, but in between both of those, the next significant level is actually right here around that $7,300, $7,400 level. You guys can see it on a lot of different time frames, but basically here are the two highest on the VPVR, and then we have the 74, and I really just have a feeling that this would be a level that we'd be putting in. Okay, I don't necessarily think we're going to go down to 6,000. 6,000 would also be like the very, very bottom of what this inverse head and shoulders could reach and still remain kind of valid. But if we broke below 6,000, then this would become a very, I wouldn't like this inverse head and shoulders pattern at all. Wow. So as well, 3 crucial factors why Bitcoin price plunged from 10,160 to 9,028 hours by Joseph Young, published on Forbes. I just want to go over a few points that I have highlighted here. First one here, 3 key factors that contributed were the liquidation of about $80 million worth of longs, correlation with the stock market, and the strength of the 10.5K resistance, which we covered. So it plunged about $1,000 in the last day, dropping 11%, and it coincided with the almost 6% drop of the DJI, the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And that's very substantial for the DJI. Let's see here, those 3 key factors we talked about. Equities dropped, the price of Bitcoin followed, and the stock market correction did not necessarily cause Bitcoin to decline. Rather, uncertainty across all asset classes likely fueled this drop. Again, we haven't actually broken any very important key levels just yet. So all those downside targets that I'm talking about are based on if we actually concretely break below 8.8K, which we haven't done just yet. By the time I get this uploaded, it might have actually done that. Other assets like gold even dropped 1% in 1 hour, even though it's been doing pretty well here. Initial slump in price of Bitcoin led to an immense amount of long contracts in the futures market to get liquidated. On BitMEX, in a single hour, over $50 million of futures contracts were liquidated. I personally would not be going long right now, and I wouldn't have been going long for the last week. I'm not sure why that many were liquidated. I'm not sure why people were longing it right now. Pretty risky play. In fact, this last week has been a very, very risky period in general, and I definitely, I've been saying I don't necessarily think it's too smart to trade that. Futures market likely affected the price of Bitcoin more heavily because the spot market has seen such a decline in volume lately. Last thing I want to point out here is whether miners begin to sell more Bitcoin than their daily revenues to cover operational costs and the sell-off in the futures market continue, those 2 factors will decide the short-term price trend of Bitcoin. So guys, absolutely huge. Let me know what you think below. Do you think we're going to get these targets? Do you think we're at the beginning of forming the last shoulder of a potentially huge maybe 10-month inverse head and shoulders by the time it's all said and done, which could skyrocket Bitcoin to new all-time highs? The last thing I want to say about that is that for one thing does make a lot of sense to me, because this is a very strong resistance level that we've seen for almost the past 10 months, right? It's been very hard to get over, and we need a very, very strong pattern, in my opinion, to be able to break through that. We've already seen that we have not been able to break through it lately, okay? We failed once back in October, November, and then again in February, and just now recently, guys. So, I mean, this looks very much so like we don't have the strength to do it right now. And this type of pattern is exactly, in my opinion, what is needed to actually get enough momentum to break to such a strong level and break finally above these levels. Because we have to keep in mind, even if we break 10.5, we still do have some overhead resistance. Okay, it's not just off to the races as soon as we break 10.5. There is some, granted, there's not a lot, but there's still some overhead resistance. All right, guys, so I've got 202 retweets here. Let's do 202 and generate. Okay, so number 36 is the winner. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm not going to edit this so everybody knows that I didn't edit it. So I have to count it out. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 19, 20, 22, 3, 4, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. David Lawrence, what was the number? 36. David Lawrence right here, and then John B. Okay, congrats, John B. You are the winner. Make sure to shoot me an email and we can get you this ledger shipped out, guys. And guys, make sure to leave your comments, likes, turn on subscribe to win this ledger. And as well, guys, sign up to crypto.com. I definitely think it's a great option. And if you use the link in the description in the comments, we both get $50 of USD of MCO. Very awesome coin. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.